Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you. Good morning. I see we're joined by a few more people here from our Cuyahoga County Probation Department, but let me introduce myself. I'm Judge Joan Sinnenberg. I'm here from Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court. I'm here to talk to you this morning about this community-based correctional facility. And I do want to tell each of you that I'm pleased to see you, and I'm very pleased to be with you this morning. Throughout this program, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm here to help. I'm here to give you some information. To respect everyone's privacy, we're not going to go around the room and have each of you introduce yourselves, each of you clients, but if any of you wish to, feel free. And of course, we did have a chance to talk just a little bit before. And if you do ask a question, we would all appreciate to hear your name so we could address you appropriately. You heard from Ms. Brenninghouse that I'm one of your common pleas judges. You heard that from me too. Are all of you here from a Cuyahoga County judge's order? Yes? All right, so there are 34 of us, and I do come to you on behalf of all 34 of us. And we have very high hopes by sending you here. Our court, just to give you a little bit of background, is following what's called evidence-based practices in sentencing. Now, if I may ask by a show of hands, how many of you have been to prison before? Okay. And that's what we typically expect. God bless you. God bless you. And that's typically what we see, which is that the person who has very high needs, which could include needing to change peers, needing employment, needing help with drug addiction, alcohol abuse, if there's mental health issues that have been problematic, if there's instability in a family, those are needs that very often we see bring people into the criminal justice system. But we also see people with high risk of reoffending. And that can be established if you take a look at someone's past. And what we use to indicate the likelihood of an offender returning to the system is by taking a look at what's happened in the past. I know a lot of people find that frustrating because you do think that you can have a future without being defined by that past, right? Right. But remember, from the judge's perspective, and of course we're here to follow the law, we are required by statute to consider if you have a prior record of conviction, if you've ever violated probation, and we're required to even consider what type of punishments have been imposed in the past and how you've done with that. So here we have this facility where you have an offender, very often who's been to prison, by indication, as most of you raised your hands. Anybody here without a criminal record? No? Yes, you do. I know better than that. Nice try. But you're on your way. I like the positive attitude. No, you're doing really well, and a number of you are here from orders that I did impose. But what I'm very grateful about is that we have an option other than sending people to prison. What we have learned as a court through evidence-based practices is that if you take certain offenders, especially on low-level offenses, people with high needs that many of you here have, and there's no shame in that, if we send you to prison, we're not going to decrease the chance of you coming back, and in many instances, we may even increase it. So what we've learned over time, and I do see that you're nodding your head in agreement, I appreciate that. What we do see is that if we can respond to the offender and not just the offense, and try to address what really brought you into the criminal justice system, maybe we can keep you from coming back. I, for one, don't believe that people are inherently bad. I believe in the inherent goodness of people, and that there are reasons that ultimately people make mistakes that can wind them up getting ensnared in the criminal justice system time and again. But as a person of hope and optimism, I would like to think that that does not have to define the rest of your lives. So as one of your 34 common pleas judges, I'm pleased that we have the opportunity to use a placement that is not prison. You're not inmates here. You are clients here. And each and every one of us share a goal, and that's for you to have this as your very last experience with the criminal justice system. Now, I've been asked to tell you what we expect of you. And again, let me know if you have any questions, but with all due respect to our probation department, they gave me some talking points, but it all says one thing in a nutshell, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong here, Ms. Brenninghouse, but I think it says you have to follow the rules. Am I right? So here you are, and I know that some of you are frustrated, How many of you would rather be home right now? Okay, just about everybody. Is there anyone who thinks that prison is a better option? No. Well, I'm glad. That's good. So everyone would rather be home, but none of you would prefer being in prison, and most of you have been to prison before. So at least you see that this is the best option for you at this time. When you went in front of the judge, each and every one of you for sentencing, I know this because I know of the criteria to get into this place. You had to present as an offender with a lot of issues, a criminal history, a lot going on. Now, before the option of the Nancy McDonald Community-Based Correctional Facility, many of you, I suspect, would have been sent to prison. And then what happens when you get out? Now, how in the world can we expect to send someone to prison with a record and then get out and somehow make this miraculous change? I just don't think that happens, and I think that years of analysis have established that that doesn't work. And that's why a program like this, and also having reentry programs, is so critically important to your success. So on behalf of all 34 of us judges over in Common Pleas Court, we expect you to participate in any programming that you have to do here. Now, some of you come here, and I know this from my own personal experience, kicking and screaming. Okay, you don't want to come here, I don't need it, let me go home, that kind of thing. That doesn't mean that this is not going to be a successful time for you. The programs that are created here are designed not just to see if you can suffer through a few months of being here. It's rather intended to change your behavior and change the way you think. And there's nothing that's more difficult than to change people's behavior. I mean, we're all creatures of habit. We do what we do. But if we send you to prison, all I can expect is that when you get out, you're going to do what you used to do. And sending clients here, I'm hopeful with the tools that you gain through the programming, like IOP, intensive outpatient, like Thinking for a Change. Any of you been signed up for that program yet? Statistically speaking, and again, I'm an optimist, I'm not a numbers person, but I understand that with the high-risk, high-needs offender, with this type of programming, we can reduce recidivism up to 60%. Otherwise, if you just take a look at all the people in prison right now, and our country incarcerates like nobody else, I think that there's probably around 2.3 million people in prison right now, and when an inmate is released, I think it's a 2/3 rate of reoffending. But with this kind of a programming, we cut that down. Now, many people think that the good news is that it's rooted in economics, it costs less money to punish one way than another, but there is something else. You're a person. This is not just a statistic, and you're a human being with a family that you love, with people that you need, people that need you, and you want to change your life. God bless you. I hope you do. And what we're doing as a court is giving you every chance to do it, okay? But the responsibility is yours. You know, that judge gave you a chance, okay? He listened to you, and he saved a bed for you here. And you're listening to the program and working it. And I wish you all the best. Thank you. Actually, I did make just a short list of things I wanted to discuss, and that's gratitude. Because right now, all of you could be sitting in a prison cell, and you know that. You know that. So, by the way, I haven't heard any pity parties yet, and I'm glad, because no whining in here. No wine, unless it goes with cheese, okay? But I do want to say that I'm very proud of you for standing up and acknowledging Nehemiah in front of your co-clients here, whatever we want to call your friends. I think that that was courteous of you, and thoughtfulness goes a long way. I think that gratitude is an important thing because people did listen to you. You didn't go to prison. You've all been given a chance here. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a judge, but you know, each of you were in front of a judge that made a decision that was not sending you back to LCI. And all of you, just about all of you, have been there. And you had to know that that was a very real possibility. So you get here, and you're in need of clothes. It's cold, and someone does something to you that is giving of themselves. It's a very sweet story. I'm very proud of you, Nehemiah, for doing that. Thank you. And I'm also pleased that you stood up to say what Marquise was doing with you.
I mean, yeah, because it affects us. I mean, like, I'm young, you know what I'm saying? He young, but at the same time, he older than me. So like it's really a respect thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
People don't have their differences or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We say stuff to each other, but then it got to the point where we motivate each other more than anything.
Well, that's so fantastic to hear. I mean, why not? Why not work together?
You do gotta sleep together.
Yes. And make your beds, by the way. That's my other thing.
Yeah.
There's no shame, by the way, in being addicts. There's no shame in being on the streets. There's no shame to having certain life circumstances. But to come in here and to recognize the kindness of others is really fantastic. And to feel perhaps more of a response because of being clean. I mean, it's just wonderful to hear what you say. And how many of you are dads? Okay, so these are very important words that resonate with others, and like you hear, people passing forward the lessons that they've learned to try to help each other. But what could be more important than taking care of your own, right? And you know, you said two things. One is how your absence affects your kids, but also if you're there, and you know, of course, parents teach by example. If you're doing the wrong thing, you can't expect your kids not to pick up whatever they're learning by observing you. So here, participating in that program, you're doing what you can to return to be the best dad that you can be. And you can't just be present, you have to really be involved and demonstrate the type of behavior you would hope that would be emulated by your own kids. So I give you so much credit for the effort and for recognizing the importance of that program. Drugs and alcohol do some nasty things to people. You can be a different guy when you're under the influence than you are when you're not. And I think it's a very high percent. Molly Brenninghouse could probably tell me, but I think it's somewhere close to 80% of crimes that are committed involve drugs and alcohol. It doesn't have to be a drug case. It could be a domestic violence case when somebody's all, you know, hopped up and gets violent and people acting differently. I'm going to pass on to Judge Burnside the fact that you're doing well. I will do that for sure. And I'm very pleased to hear about what you have to say. And the sobriety doesn't end when you leave here. The whole thing is what you pick up here, you take with you when you go, because we do not want you back. I'd be happy to see any one of you again. And if it's in my courtroom because you pop in to say hello, great. But I don't want to see any one of you coming back in an orange jumpsuit under any circumstances. That would be a tremendous disappointment, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I think that you brought up such an interesting aspect about the Fatherhood Initiative, which is that, you know, so many of you don't have an example to build from. And again, there's no shame in that, but it's very inspiring to hear that everyone is looking out for each other, because you are all here with a common purpose. You're here with the hopes of never coming back into the criminal justice system and having a life where you can prosper and be happy and interact with others and support your family and be there for the ones that love you, because you're missed when you're not around. Major.
Yes, I just would like to thank Mr. Mike Randall for two things.
Mike, you may not hear this very often, so come over here. Major wants to say thank you.
I just want to thank him for two things. One, for letting us have a creative mind and certain things, certain aspects and everything, and not being too big to not hear us. You know, not I'm too big to hear you. He actually stops and says, "You got a question? You got something? What's going on?" He listens. I thank you for that. Appreciate it.
We're hearing a lot of gratitude. Mike Randall is a fantastic guy. These caseworkers here, and that's why I wanted to start that way. You know, aren't we so blessed that every day there are people that get up and want to get out and do something to help people in need? And so to each and every one of you, and maybe I say this as a former social worker too, but I appreciate the work that you do. God bless all of you. Heroin, of course, right now, and I don't know your drug of choice, and I'm not trying to get to make you uncomfortable, but we do have a heroin epidemic in our community right now, and we're losing people just about every day, and it scares me so much. So when you have these opportunities and you recognize them, thank you for taking advantage of that. I will pass along to Judge Burnside how well you are doing and how positive you are. You will get into those programs. It takes a little time, but thank you very much for sharing that with us. Your motivation is very inspiring. And of course, we try to respond to your particular needs. So when you get your individualized assessment, it's determined what programming you will participate in. And you've also mentioned something that I think is a concern to all of the staff here, and that is that when you get here, you have no idea what to expect. And so part of the reason that I'm here today is to let you know what the judges expect of you, and to just say welcome, you know, adapt, but it sounds like everyone's trying very hard to do that, and hopefully it'll be soon that you're placed into those programs, and I wish you oh, well, good, but you've got a wonderful attitude, and that's fantastic. I'll let Judge Burnside know that too. It's nice to meet you. And you know, when you come here, there are expectations, and as required, I'll let you know that you are going to be subjected to drug tests here. They can test for K2. Canine dogs may come in and search, so please be aware of all that. And also, when you leave here, and that day will come, you'll have an aftercare plan, and it's very important that you follow all of the aftercare, because just like we heard from some of you before, you need to take these tools with you when you leave. There could be consequences for non-compliance here, and I tell you this because I must. However, I will also say that we're hopeful that there won't be non-compliance here. Nobody said that this is necessarily going to be a simple program. You're all coming here being expected to make huge changes in your lives that are probably not simple things to do. How old are you? Right. Okay. All right. I could never get a job in a carnival. I thought you were older. I thought you were younger. I mean, I just can't, I could never figure that out. I can't guess ages too well. But everyone that comes in here has quite a bit in common, and that is the opportunity to make some positive changes. Working with your case manager is something that you have to do. I've been encouraged to stress this by our case managers. And again, we want to avoid having any non-compliance. And I know that you don't like all the rules. I've heard that from some of you. Okay, we get that. You know, I learned this a long time ago. Every single day of our lives, we do things we don't want to do. I mean, that's just a reality. So I made a decision a long time ago to just accept that. Yes. Uh-oh, I hope I'm not opening the complaint department here, but yes.
Major, I just want to know, Major, just want to know, as far as probation go, since we left the county, does probation start when we left the county, or does the probation start when we leave here?
It starts when you're sentenced. So if you were sentenced, as a number of you have been by me, your probation, your community control sanctions begin the day of your sentence. A condition of being on your community control sanctions is completing this program. So all of you are on probation, which is community control sanctions basically means probation. Successfully completing this program is one of the conditions that you have. And then when you get out, you'll remain on supervision. I'm sure your judges told you that it's weekly reporting, that you have to follow any treatment team recommendations. And look, we want you to be successful, but when you are here, that does mean following the rules. And as I said in the beginning of my remarks here, I've been encouraged to stress that over and over with all of you. And I'm telling each and every one of you, on behalf of all the judges that sent you here, follow the rules. Okay? You can't smoke in the dorm, don't smoke in the dorm. As far as, you don't respect people who snitch each other out, there's another way of thinking, and that is that someone who's here trying to follow the rules doesn't want to be undermined by someone who's not. So this is the kind of thinking that hopefully will be addressed with the programs here, because the focus should be very positive. It should not be about who tells on each other when there's non-compliance. It should be about complying. Follow the rules here, guys. And we could get into this on and on. Okay.
I just want to say that, but that's what goes on. It seems like the people who tell move on faster, get the privileges.
Well, let's talk about this a little further. You all can gain privileges by compliance, and you can get sanctioned with non-compliance. So good behavior here is rewarded. So Marquise, I'm offering that everybody in here makes a pact right now that will make your issue moot. You know what moot means? It means it's no longer relevant, okay? It's closed. And the pact, the motion I'm making here from the court is that everybody complies with the rules, therefore snitching is not an issue anymore. Everybody on board?
Second that motion.
Thank you. Any nays? All right. This is unanimously passed, and I got a whole bunch of witnesses. Okay. I think the short answer is that if you complete all of your programs and do what you're supposed to do, you will get out sooner than later. Is that fair to say, Ms. Brenninghouse? Is that fair to say, Mr. Mike? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry? Okay, I misunderstood your question. I thought you meant, could you leave sooner? No, I'll answer that question. I'll happily answer that question. For the 5 of you who are on the docket of Judge Jones Sonnenberg, if you successfully complete everything here and get out, and I hear that you're doing well, and you want to get off probation early, I will strongly consider saying yes. Okay, I got a whole bunch of witnesses for that too. And I want to explain why. Let me explain it. I don't want to be supervising you forever. I'm not your babysitter. I care about you all, but I'm your judge. And to me, a success story is when you do everything, do it well. I get good reports back from your POs. I want you to spread your wings and fly. I want you to have a happy life. I don't want you coming back, okay? And if you can get it sooner than later, God bless you. Come and visit me. Let me know how you're doing. But I'll take you off probation early. That would be my great pleasure. So that's my answer. And I'm sticking to it. Can I ask you a question? Is there smoking allowed here anywhere?
No, it's not.
All right, well then it's not an issue, guys. Forget about it. And everybody here agreed. There's no smoking. Don't even, can I ask you guys a question? Do you want to go to prison for smoking a cigarette?
No.
Okay, don't violate. That is like, I'm hearing this stuff and I'm thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa. Sign up for the Thinking for a Change program. We're not dealing with how to deal with people who are smoking. Send them to a place where they get busted, it's away from here. No, don't smoke the cigarette. It's not that big of a deal. And the Surgeon General says it's bad for your health. So stop smoking. Just don't make an issue out of something like that. And come on, forget about it. This is about the rest of your lives. I'm glad you brought it up, okay, so we'll have a little mini Thinking for a Change course. No more cigarette smoking. That way you don't have to get into all these issues. It's put to bed.
That'll help, thank you.
Thank you. Let's talk about that. First of all, when we get the pre-sentence report back, it gives us your record. And you're correct, Joseph, right? You can go through some of these old records and see that, conviction, prison, conviction, prison, conviction, prison, conviction, prison, or it could be conviction, probation, probation violation, prison, but no meaningful programming. And that's because I think that things were done that way for a long time. But you are right now in the middle of a sea change, okay? The way that we punish is changing, and that is the good news. And if our court if every judge followed evidence-based practices, and Mr. McDonough, anybody here, your POs could tell you about that. This is where we try to take a more analytical approach to sentencing, and it's kind of thinking differently. So you take that offender who has the very long record, okay? You take that offender with all the needs that they may have. They call them criminogenic needs. And judges, I think, had that quick knee-jerk reaction, lock them up and throw away the key. Okay, that is changing. And we're hoping that if the judges on our bench collectively uniformly follow evidence-based practices, they would understand and apply a sentence like this, because we learned that with that offender, the one I've just described, which probably fits a lot of you, that we do much better if we address what's really going on with you. If I've got somebody with her 20th drug case, and she steals something or gets busted on an F5, I've seen these cases 100 times. You've seen them. I've seen them where they get out of prison, Marysville, let's say, on January 22nd, and the date on the next indictment is January 25th. But how can you, what do we think? That some miracle happens when somebody gets out of prison with $10 and the clothes on their back, that they're going to suddenly make some profound change? No. And I think that we're learning now that prison is not always the right option. And I think it's just taking some getting used to. But I think that many judges on our bench do follow evidence-based practices. Now listen, this is not to say that there's not a prison cell for that dangerous person out there who's going to do something to hurt somebody we love. Those are not hard decisions to make, though. That person you send. Okay, you want to go and grab somebody on the street and threaten their life, you're going to pay for that. Okay, that's different. We're talking about troubled people that are engaging in criminal activity, and very often to support a lifestyle, to respond to needs because they're not working, they want to support their family, the good motive, all this kind of stuff. We're trying to respond here. We're doing the best we can, but when you get here, you see, now it's on you. But wait a second, you're working the program, and You know, I can't speak to any kind of personality conflicts between anyone who works here and doesn't. And I don't know that you couldn't be hired here someday, but I do know that you can get a job somewhere. And look, I gave you the chance. You were on my docket.
I mean, like as far as like, cause I know if I got out of here, like if I could get through this, when I get through this program, I ain't gonna say if.
No, you said
When I
when.
get through this program, I know I can come back and, you know what I'm saying, give back to the same kind of people.
Well, so, you know, the same kind of people are all throughout our community. That's a great goal. If you want to get out of here and get into a job helping others because they could benefit from what you've been through, Nehemiah, do it. No one's stopping you. If there's a personality conflict, you know what? Just brush it away. Don't let it interfere with what you're here to do.
It's not really a conflict, what I'm saying is like, I see people, like sometimes they'll lock us down and that's how you know somebody going back to the county. You know what I'm saying? That ain't a good look for nobody. I mean, especially if you already here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's consequences. When there's non-compliance and someone has to go back to the county, I mean, this is what happens. This is all back to what we were saying in the beginning. Comply. But what I heard from you and what I've heard about you today has all been very positive. I mean, having a complaint or two along the way, I understand that, and I have no problem listening to it. Maybe you need a suggestion box here, Mr. McDonough, but we have one? Okay. So, you know, you can work on that. By and large, though, what I heard you say is that you're in a place where you can get the opportunities that you need, that people here in a similar lot, and let me tell you, there are people in need everywhere. There are, and if you want to go out and give back, good for you. That's fantastic. That's a great goal. I thought I saw. Well, what would it be about being a former addict that would be helpful to someone that you're working with in a recovery program? I mean, do you think it's, go ahead.
Lead by example, I guess.
Well, the people who work in addiction programs may not necessarily have been in a recovery program, but perhaps have learned through education what works. And I mean, we can't, I don't have your life experiences, but whatever choices you've made landed you time and again in the criminal justice system, and of greater concern, put you at risk of, I don't mean to sound dramatic here, but dying. And I don't know how to respond to that, but I do think that many of the programs that are about recovery are about working with others who are in the same boat, where you can benefit from your experiences together, where you can say, well, you know, I've had that experience, let me help you along. I think it's intended to be about fellowship with others who do have similar experiences.
Right, well, I wasn't saying nothing about this program, I was just speaking on why the last treatment did not work for me. That's what I was.
Well, I think that we can all learn from what you have to say. But you know, what we've also learned is that when someone gets into a 12-step program, Alex, that having a sponsor who knows what they're doing can make all the difference in the world. So maybe a way that you could make a change, and that you could make a change, is that when you get out, be there for someone else.
Right.
I mean, if you've had the experience, and you can say, I've lived that life. Let me tell you, maybe you have ideas that would work that you're not hearing in a recovery program. But when you're in a recovery program, at least share what you think. I mean, listen, we're losing people too. I think, I'm telling you, the leading cause of death in Ohio right now is heroin overdoses. And it's just everywhere, and it's very frightening. So if you think that there's something you can do to help by benefiting others with your past, do.
I think the best thing I can do is, because a lot of people think I can't change, still to this day, I'm not saying something, you know, so I think the best thing I can do is do a 180.
Okay, so you're saying that your own mom thinks you can't change?
She's doubtful, you know.
Okay. All right, let's talk about, I want to talk about that. Listen, at least you got your mom out there, and I get why people doubt that you can be successful, but this is part of changing how we think about sentencing. So I'm going to tell this to each and every one of you, unless you raise your hand and tell me I am wrong, and you're welcome to do that. I know you can do it, okay? I know you can. There's no reason that you can't be a success story. There's no reason you can't do it. It may not be simple. But Alex, you're with Judge Burnside or Satula? Who are you? Okay. He gave you every opportunity here. I mean, this is the best shot you're gonna have at making the change. And, you know, just when you get out of here, you've got some very important choices to make. I worry the most about you all going back to the same environment with the same peers. That's my number one concern. So, I saw. Good effort. But, you know, I hear what you're saying, and not only do I hear what you are saying, but as you know, there's a number of caseworkers, probation officers, and staff here that hear what you're saying. But share that with them. I mean, nothing would make us happier than seeing you succeed. And, you know, I know I sound dramatic, and I'm not trying to, but I have grave concerns. Doesn't mean I don't believe in you, but I have grave concerns about people that relapse and hurt themselves, you know, accidentally, usually, but sometimes on purpose. So work it, do what you can. Thank you for sharing that with us. Sir.
One more recommendation, please. We need a program, like they got the AA, they got the NA. You know, and majority of the time when you go, they're talking about people who use drugs. But I think we need a program for people who sell drugs, who are addicted to the money. You understand? Like,
I think that's a fantastic idea.
You know, I feel like I can't relate because I wasn't heavy in drinking, I wasn't heavy on drugs. I was heavy into the cash. I wanted more money. I
Sure.
feel like I need to provide more. I wanted a better lifestyle.
By the way, a lot of people want that don't sell drugs. Like me, that's part of when we say, you know, what we do to get what we want. Hey, and you know, everybody meets obstacles, okay? I mean, the decisions aren't difficult when everything's going well. These tools are no big deal when, you know, when everything's easy. It's when you're getting out there and you're in need and you know that you could get back to the old habits, get your cash, do what it takes. And if there's a program that might address that, other than thinking for a change or some behavior modification, but specifically with people who need to have some behavior modification from drug dealing, you know, Mr. McDonough's here, Mr. Randall's here, they've heard that, but I would encourage you to engage in the type of programs here that deal with what you do when there's decision making that you have to make. You get out there with the struggles, the challenges, your peers are on you, they want you to get out, money's tight. That's when you have to rely on these tools. So, but I did want to tell you, everybody has challenges. Okay, so, you know, I was working one day and out of a job, you know, after I lost just a few weeks later. So, you know, you go out and you have to pick yourself up and keep on going. You know, maybe there could be where everybody got together every few weeks or something and had testimonials from your peers here about what's working. You know, maybe you could get together and start something yourselves where you know, I hear all these creative ideas, and I earlier heard someone thanking Mike Randall for permitting those creative ideas. So come up with something yourselves, create something. Sit down, figure out what your needs are, put it together. Why don't you do that, Marquise? Okay, so ordered. Get busy. The answer to your question is why don't they do this? Probably resources, although I know that there are POs that are there as late as 6 p.m. And our POs, I gotta tell you, we have a wonderful probation department, fantastic department. She is the deputy chief, okay? Mike runs the place, I don't know, he's got a bunch of titles, I just don't know them all. And we have Ronaldo here, we've got Kevin, we have Lindsay, who else do we have from probation? And all the case managers here, they work so hard. They are overworked and underpaid, I'll tell you that right now. Don't tell all the judges I said that, or your administrators, but they're overworked and underpaid. But I know our POs, and if they are aware that you have verifiable employment, they will work with your schedule, okay? And for those 5 of you who are here from me, if you have a meeting with your PO that you cannot make because you have verifiable employment that you have shown to your PO, and your PO calls me, I'll work with your reporting schedule. No problem. I want you out there working. Get it going. Life's not perfect. I mean, our POs are wonderful. It's a great department, but everybody gets frustrated every day. I mean, you think I don't get frustrated with the knuckleheads that come in front of me all the time? I mean, come on. Patience is a virtue. Pray for it, okay? Try not to be too frustrated. Just deal with, that's the little stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about that. You all need to keep your eye on the ball. And that's getting out of here, succeeding with this program, doing your aftercare. Nobody said that life is going to be simple. That's a for sure. There's going to be people that annoy you. There's going to be things that frustrate you. You'll have sadness. You'll have happiness. This is about taking care of yourselves and not coming back into the criminal justice system. Major.
I'm done.
You don't have to be done.
I've lost the job. What are you talking about?
But, okay.
And I tell my boss, like, look, I gotta go report. He's like, look.
Did you give your PO proof of your employment?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just saying, all right, listen, well, we're taking it up with the people in the probation department that are in charge, okay? My position, and I'm one of 34, is that if you have a judge, I will work with you. I don't want you to lose your job. If you've got a job, I want you to keep the job, okay? And when I say verifiable employment, I would say that means a pay stub. Okay? All right, just by the way, FYI, newsflash. I got no problem with granting some privileges. But let's back up a little bit. You're all here for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
It's consequences for conduct. And when you're complaining about how long it takes to get here and my time's messed up, you only have these problems if you go to LCI. So roll with the punches. Wait a minute, you talked about the time. I get what you're saying because I was following what I heard about the Thinking for a Change program, how you listen to somebody. I heard what you said. Now, I don't know without picking up the phone and bothering Kevin and Mike and Molly and Ronaldo and anybody else I would bother, if you're allowed to have something like a Thanksgiving pass. Here's what your judge would do. I'd take a look at how you're conducting yourself in here. And if there's no infractions and if everything's good and if I'm permitted to order that you go home and have that cranberry, that hug and come back here, and you do come back here and come back clean and no problems, and if they listen to my orders around here, it's something I would strongly consider.
I appreciate the fact that you would even consider.
Okay. All right. So does that answer your question?
I mean, because it'll motivate me a lot to be able to.
I get that. Well, let's see. I don't know any studies about that, but I got to believe that the incentive of going home for your family with Thanksgiving dinner would be something that would be a positive thing. Because what we do want to establish here is that although you're here for consequences for conduct, we do wish to reward good behavior. And if you're doing well, and if the probation department, if the powers that be here say I'm allowed to do that, go through the channels of your PO and ask them to ask me. But I do want to say to all of you gentlemen, and I say this from our presiding judge, Nancy First, I say this from the former presiding judge of Common Pleas Court, Nancy McDonnell, after whom this place is named, that we want you to be successful. Raymond, to each and every one of you. And we had a chance to talk earlier. I know you're doing well. We had a chance to talk earlier, and I know that you wanted to say thank you for what's happening here. But to each and every one of you, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you great success with this program, with your aftercare, and with the rest of your lives. Thank you. And it was my pleasure to be here. I was just invited back this week. We'll come back. Maybe we'll come back and do a little expungement CQE presentation, talk about that a little bit. But gentlemen, my very best to you. Happy Thanksgiving. God bless you.